Okay. Everything looks green. Let's go. So last Sunday I was talking about a better architecture or information flow diagram. So I've been busy with the book writing all week, and today is again my chance to work on this where I left off. And this is not a complete list, but the major items that I could think of in the meantime. A lot of these systems will interact with each other. Some are kind of one way, some are kind of midway through. So we'll receive input from another system and then we'll trigger a different system along the way. So we have a diagram here. It's given to us by Myro. We'll probably remove some of this and replace it with our stuff. So maybe what I should do, this is what I was thinking. Should be duplicating things like this. Let's see. So I want to take each one of these and turn them into this so I could connect them properly. This is so far, I think, part of the presentation. The latest devlog from a month ago, and the next one is due soon. This one. So, climate geography system, let's move. Okay. So there's this. Climate geography, which I included as weather too. So, these three systems are kind of one and the same-ish. There's the current situation and there's the forecast situation. So maybe I'll have two subsystems here. Then we have soil and composting as one group, water management. There's the plant. This is actually a plant, but I will call this living systems actually. We have gameplay experience, which I labeled as player interaction. Growing mechanics, which is also part of player interaction. Maybe we'll subdivide them again. And now we have these two layers. Let's divide them. And also, to make it visually appealing, let's some icons. Why not? Here, so I need at least a VFX and SFX system. So I'll duplicate this. Let's call this VFX. Let's remove these two. Okay. I'm also curious if anyone has come up with an icon for VFX. Okay, they turn it into visual effects, and I was looking at better options. What happened? Oh, redirected me. There. Oh, one more time. Fuck's sake. Okay. VFX again. This is a better way of looking at things. This looks okay. Let's take this. Copy. Paste. Replace image from board. Oh. This. Turn. Replace. So let's do something similar. SFX. Sound effects. Yeah, this looks simple enough. Okay, done. So we have these two systems waiting for us. There's a time notion. Probably clock. I might need something like a calendar later. I'm thinking of a different game system. Right. Let's duplicate you. Paste. Okay, your time. This time is essentially what we call here game. However, it could be different as well. By time and game being the same thing in my mind is the fact that games are essentially running a time loop, and stuff happens. We react to those things as time goes by, hence the game. So there's always a loop running. However, this game could very well be the game state. So this could be maybe sort of load and save, game status, that kind of thing. So I'll just keep that there. Time is gone. Vendor is already done here, so I'm taking it out. Soil and composting. Let's work that out too. Pile of soil. I'll take both. This is the plant. This almost looks like composting, which is soil mechanics anyway. So duplicate this one more time. Call this soil composting. This may be broken down to two separate systems. For now, it's okay. Okay, and this will be living things or plant. Okay. So done. So water management. Call it water. This looks cute. Gate, paste. Move it out of the way so I can click this water. I am going to call it water dynamics. Could be water systems as well. Still deciding. Done. Player interaction. Also has this feeling that it's going to be more like playful icon. See if there's such a thing. player activity. That's it. This is the one. Paste. Player activity. So this crucial system here. See. This looks like it. Somehow I like this better. So this is the forecast part. Still going to pull geography here. Almost like the globe. Something like this. You doing it? So I'll keep this part as a reminder that I'm interested in the precipitation, and at that point that system will trigger virtual effects. You see the precipitation or the snowfall, that kind of thing. So let's plan it out as much as we can. I'm also going to look for a game. See if there's anything. This is what I was thinking. Called pins, which is the game itself. This is a game controller, like player interaction. For this is the game. I like this. The most less player feeling, but more of the game board and system, right? Hate this. You are the game. So now, this is more like game state. It's going to be an interesting exercise. This is just one arrow system, and this is another. Okay. With add text, which is written here. We type whatever we want, whatever. And I think we are at yes, let's do 100%. So that's whatever. So we could type event names or interaction names. We could design the main menu system and how the game kicks off. I'll probably do that later. I'll try to do the parts that are relevant to the weather now. By game, I'm going to include things like data. Because the data is part of the weather system. Or data dictates how the weather is going to act. And then depending on how the weather acts, data dictates virtual effects and world events. I think at this point, I kind of need they get deleted. Okay, I'll just keep a few around and they delete this. I'll create my own, so I just need to keep one. So where do we go from here? I'm gonna bring that calendar thing, which is sort of the wasn't calendar exactly, weather. Yeah. Let's pull this here. Okay, we have current weather. Let's imagine this is the system. We have game. Can we write more comments on this sort of like section that we could expand to look into later? Info. Kind of note, sticky note. I think there was a comment thing, right? Could attach this comment. That comment. Includes data, game state, other high level concepts. Okay. This is related to this guy. So I like that part of that. So now game is here. Okay. We'll connect this to this, and this is by nature type. Thickness. I'm going to put another comment here. The comment is when we say weather current, we are talking about sigma. This one. it's the current weather, but this is the UI of it. Its behavior or effect in the world has not been mapped out yet. I will consider that after I grab more water. I'll be back soon. So by weather current, I mean this upper part, and forecast part is the bottom. Perhaps they should just be one system here. Where it might matter is when the player is going to do something different. So game data, let's say updates. Can we? Okay, we can actually move this. You cannot extend this one. This has to be duplicated. It should be gone. You know what? Why can't this be? Can we do this straight line? Yeah, just one is enough, man. Okay. This way. Okay. Something like this. We'll see if these two have to be separate. From here, what I wanted to do the other day was putting this plant in the world, running this, I was planning to see the values change here, fine. But also, as the date move forward, we would see the progress in the plant. So we need to interact with the plants and living things. Now, although it may seem like the data game is updating this, from that point on, game will interact with every single thing. That's not really what we are trying to do here. So as a result of weather, changing weather conditions, temperature is changing, right? So current weather conditions will update the and living things. So that's really what we are after. Need something like this. This system to this system. Use arrows and lines to connect. Type is that. Text. I forgot my glasses. So what is the effect of weather on plants? Weather affects plants and living things. Okay. Now, same weather through rain. This is, I think, why I separated this, because the existing, the current weather, whether it's raining or not, is also doing something to the soil. Here's another section, for lack of a better word. So the current weather, I will actually call this current weather. And I will call this future weather. Something like this. Good, smarten up. And this is going to be an important thing to consider for a player to make short-term plans, 5 days worth of information, let's say. So somewhere here, we might have something to do with these two systems. Also, current weather is affecting the water dynamics. Now again, this may be broken down. I think we're already doing this right now. This. Wasn't I writing a comment? So I never submitted it because I thought I was going to assign something here. Change my mind. Anyway. Let's do this. Yeah, that's just one, right? the difference between these two? Why can't this be simple? That probably messed up with the... What? Get rid of this. Let's create another one between this one. We'll do updates. It. Simple. This will branch out more. I'll fix the connections. Now, the current weather is also interacting with these two systems. This way. For example, it plays or it triggers appropriate effect. Okay. Also, when it's raining, you should see that visually. So need another. This. Also has the same title. That's why we'll tidy this up later. Like a brain map, but of our architecture. For example, these two systems should not really talk to each other. By water dynamics, I mean how wet the soil gets. Is it really part of soil? It's not. Here I'm talking about nutrition. But then again, how wet the soil is also part of the water dynamics too. How much precipitation there is. So let's say current weather is directly affecting actually, you know what? Current weather is not doing this. Current weather is doing this. That's what I'm trying to do. It's affecting the water table. This has an impact on soil. That's what I'm trying to do. This we need. I could type effects again. Yeah, I should. That makes much more sense. Yeah, cleaner. I mean, technically we could do this too, I think, yeah. The icon. Fine by me. So this is like a whole other system that is going to be doing something with these two. I mean, these two will talk to each other. And then most likely this one will be affected by the game data system. And this is going to interact with the soil and water dynamics. And eventually these systems will increase. Okay, let's see if this is the full picture. Kinda. Then we have time. The things that are in limbo are Not that everything else is finished. Okay. I think it's kind of implied that this is together. Can we do this both ways? Doesn't work both ways. Can change the direction, but oh, I see. Both. Okay. These two are somewhat the same thing, but it's not, because this is also responsible for holding game's state, data, writing files, loading, saving files, that kind of thing. This is responsible for ticking the time and then triggering this system. So in essence, we are going to do this the right way. What's the title I should have here? Because I'm going to bypass game and current weather and inject time in between. Runs, or let's keep it runs. This has to be in here. And this has to be here. To be here. Okay. Because this is going to do some other saving and loading things. So now when the game is running time itself is not exactly updating. Well, it's updating this, but how is it going to update it? It's going to extract the data, give it to... We don't really see that roundabout thing here, right? It's not exactly updates here. So this was true. Okay, let's put this back. Here's where this is gonna go. Interesting. We need another arrow here. This is not exactly updating it. This is requesting an update. More like I'm going to call it emit update, and this is my own way of understanding that there is going to be a timer, and this system is registering itself. There's an event listener, and current weather is basically saying, well, when time is past a second or whatever, I need to be pulling data. So this is actually request, and the direction of this is wrong. So in essence, this is going to be the same thing for this one too. And so emit update, current weather will try to update itself and is going to request updates from game. when I see this, the implication is that when I'm requesting updates, the updates will be given back to me. So I'm not going to put two-way arrow. These two are a little bit more obvious that they are kind of together. But then this is really a separate system than this, so I'm not going to put double arrow. Another nice way of saying this is notify. Time is passing, notify current weather. Hey, time has passed. Okay, I'm going to request updates from game source data. That's and the same thing for the future weather, so that we can update these parts. This is shaping up. So now time is going to interact with other systems in a similar way, if necessary. For example, interesting question, the shop interface. We have different vendors. Some vendors carry some of the products, but for those vendors, sometimes they will run out of certain size of the product. Let's say they won't have a package of 10,000 seeds, that kind of thing. So there's going to be a variable number of products per vendor, and also the price will change. Question is, when do you update these values? The screen is opened, or is there a timer that is updating these values even if you don't have this panel open? So the answer to that question will be designed here. But we can ask the same question for this case too. Looking at this, now that we are seeing these values, this is for a specific hour. What if the player has this screen open and the hour is counting, going up? So we hit the next hour. We should see the value here updated, right? So in essence, the notification should happen when we have the panel open, but should the notification happen when the panel is closed? Same question with the vendors. Because the answer has performance implications. I'm leaning more towards updating it in the background, regardless of the panel staying open. But then another question comes to my mind. Not particularly for the weather panel, but for the vendor panel. If after so many hours let's say in this case, each hour we are updating the weather UI. But after 6 hours or 6 days, we are updating the vendor system. Notify the vendors so they update their prices. Should that ever happen during while the player has the vendor screen open? They should. I mean, the updates should happen, but then the player should be notified that the price has changed while they were still shopping, which is kind of a weird experience, but could happen, right? Could very well happen. Let's move this from time. This is like an implied case here. Sort of like move out of the way. Here. Come here. And then your arrow is in the wrong place. It's not exactly notification anymore. This is sort of updates to your current weather. Kind of implies, right, future weather, which makes sense. Then player makes an informed decision here. So this is kind of a weird way of putting things, but security. Helps in planning. Okay. The player interacts with the plants and living things. Well, interacts. Now, the same kind of interaction also happens with soil and composting too. To a certain extent, water dynamics as well. Okay. So by the same token, we have notify for this system. Right, that's what I was just discussing. So here it is. Okay. Here's a system where we say player activity to vendors, something like this. Jobs from this. Okay. This could be in between here. Geography, which affects this. Actually, you know what? Geography affects weather, which then affects this. So this is never really interacting directly with this game system wise. By geography, this is just a fancy way of saying, well, here's the data, right? Which is here. So I'm going to include such as geography, that kind of thing. Okay. Like availability of vendors and products. We don't really need this. I'll just keep it if I need to duplicate this and somewhere with a different icon. Now this is a tricky one for other systems here. Let's see. For example, when the game is running the time is notifying current weather, which requests data updates. These two are part of the same system, so this is not going to make a separate call to the game system. However, when the player places a plant, this should imagine there's an autosave system, right? Or I'm holding the game state in the garden in a certain spot. Now there is a plant. Something in the game system should be updated. That kind of thing. So let's put something like this here too. Down here. What happened to your arrow? There. So could we safely assume it's kind of an advanced case? If we are making a recipe, if some of this stuff is available or not, I'll decide on this later. SQ, which also comes in an expanded format too. This should also update the timers here too for the duration of those. Mind you, no, this is an internal system onto itself, or there is an internal system. Because these values are going down only if you're actively working on those tasks. So there's a task system. So Let's look for a task icon. Of course. There you go. Perfect. Okay. Place it with this, confirm, done, delete, bye. Now the player interacts with the world and creates tasks. You know what? They said we should be able to do this, right? Here, do this. I'll do it this way, and it creates tasks. And by that I mean when the player interacts with the world, game world, tasks are created. This has its own so when a task is finished, because this system is not interacting with the timer. This has its own timer. When the task is finished, it's taken out of the list. What if we do something like say, here it is. Say you go and update. But this is sort of overlapping, but it's fine. A different kind of line end is this. I see, it's a different kind of arrow. I see, okay, done. Good. Okay. Yeah, let's radical here. Okay. Game runs the timer or time, which notifies vendors. And then it requests updates. Yeah, that shit is happening because this is too. Okay. At least if I get tired of or stuck in one system, I could start implementing another system. I need to know the flow. I'm still considering this as a big system here, but there's a chance it will be different. Now we gotta put the, see, this one to this one. It's sort of like symbiotic relationship almost. Let's do design type effects, and then the water dynamics also. Actually, no, water is affecting the soil and how much water there is in the soil with the nutrition. Those two things are affecting plants. Because we are assuming plants are not taking water directly from the leaves, so the rain itself is not going to. See, that's the thing. Current weather doesn't affect plants and living things. It doesn't. Well, it does to a certain extent. We have to write the comment there. So can we put a comment in that section? Some kind of comment. Say, for example, if it's windy or cold, it affects plants and living things. Cold, windy, heat may directly plants. Okay, here's a comment. Can we make this part of this system? Suppose you cannot really. Okay, maybe I'll put this here. Problem is, when I move everything else, they get moved. This comment will be left behind. In. Can't really make this part of. Okay, I'll kind of put it here so it's coming from the left, right? Yes. I'll put another comment like that. Say weather affects the soil. Via heat. This is where the geography is going to be important. Because weather is not exactly equal geography in this case. If plant is getting too much sun. You know what? I think I'm going to simplify it. However, game system wise, yeah, I think I'm considering it the same thing. Weather directly affects the soil via heat, but indirectly affects it. Well, that's also directly affecting it, right? Okay, I think I figured it out. Weather directly affects the soil via heat, and direct heat and um, not delayed, but sort of call it indirectly via rain. But the effects are seen a little bit later. Okay. So we need another guy like this here, and you gotta be here, and we'll put this here. Okay. I'm gonna put another note here, and I'll say in some cases weather equals geography. In affecting the soil and plants, we consider the weather as part of geography. Hence, cold wind and heat may directly affect plants. But also, depending on how much sun there is, we'll see. So this may have to be cleaned up a bit. The loop there is a little bit awkward. And the reason why I'm actually a little bit confused about this loop here is because of this. The player may actually have something to do with this process. This deliberate I think that's the right spelling. Yeah. The player may always water, maybe stupidly so, to flood the garden. There's too much water in the soil, it will kill the plants. Or let's say controls water flow. Okay. Or they actually ignore and they don't give enough water, and climate is not in favor of the plants, then poor soil, like dry soil, and then plants will die. Now, the reason why I'm not putting more things like this from these major systems is because so many of these things also have their UI. Um, but by this flow logic, what I mean is that if we had no UI displayed in the game, and you start the game with one plant and the game timer is running, you should be able to see the weather effects. This should actually trigger the right effects. The timer should always push the, you know, trigger should always trigger the next weather condition, which should have an impact on the plant itself. Given the fact that we have perfect nutrition in the soil, that the plant will never get hungry. So this by itself should always run. And there is enough rain to feed the soil. Let's say there's always enough nutrition, right? And because some things will be missing over time, that's when we'll require the player intervention. So here, that's why I'm not including geography. That's why it's sort of part. But I think we will need something close to geography, except it's going to be something slightly different. Now, it almost sounds like game. I want to put a word here like world or map or level, that this is your level, this is your garden. By soil, we also mean raised bed, a trellis, maybe a container, something like that. Because the player will be putting plants into those structures. And these two things are essentially part of the map. This is not so much, kinda. If you're planting things in flatbeds, that kind of. But in a sense, these three are kind of the level. So we can maybe do something like level. First, when we say level, I'm curious what it's going to bring up. Some kind of scale, leveling things up, that sort of thing. So this is level. What? I'm looking, let's say yard. Kind of like game world. This looks like it. The backyard, see what it comes up. Garden. Perhaps this. This is it. I'm going to call this level because we'll have different levels, factories and other places. Duplicate this, call it level. Okay. What does the player do with the level? Plays the level, organizes, interacts with the level. There are other systems here too, such as inventory. Am I even including that? Let me think. What happened? Dude? Where are my icons? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not including UIs here. Panels are not part of that. The panels are instruments for us to interact with the world. This is like machine's buttons, basically. Push the right buttons to trigger events in the world. A level in that sense is not as concrete as a panel, but this is kind of the world, and this is part of the geography. But for a particular geography, you could be playing multiple scenarios, multiple levels. So the level itself is also like a sandbox for the player. The places stuff in the world. Let's duplicate this guy. We put this here. This here. I should say something like kind of place the level. Dude, seriously, what is wrong with you sometimes? The player plays the level. Okay. This level has, it's like holds items. This is where for example, there's a rain barrel, which is responsible for water dynamics. There's a raised bed in which we can have soil, which affects plants. So can we say raised bed also affects plants? Does not really, but when you trigger the interface, raised bed shows what is planted in that area. So I will call it receptacles because that's a game system. And it doesn't have a UI, which actually makes sense because we are almost designing things that don't necessarily have UI. This one happens to have one, but it's like I said, without the UI, we should just be able to see the effects of the weather on living things. This isn't about UI, so it's about receptacle. And by that, I actually mean anything like a container. Looks like a receptacle. I'll just go with a typical container. It will probably show me one of those industrial ones. I think I need to stretch my legs and I'll come back or so. I think I'll keep this screen on in case people come and join the stream while I'm just stretching my legs, and I'll be back shortly. So let's see. Receptacle will be part of the world or level. Let's pick something less industries. Something like a pot. Like a bucket or something. Crate, wooden box. Kind of know what I'm looking for. Maybe the top is open. Not really. Really, now I have the exact word in mind. Something like this. Okay. One of these guys. Yeah, let's take this one. Okay, let's duplicate this guy. Paste the image. This is a general concept that it doesn't have to be a raised bed. It's anything that can contain other things. So this image will be this. The level will have receptacles. So we'll put some kind of a, maybe we'll put this here, and we'll have receptacles which will contain plants and living things, which will also have soil too, and which will interact with water dynamics. So the level is dealing with these three systems through receptacles in most cases, I think. Are there any cases where it's bypassing this? I don't think so. I'm going to call these receptacles so that when I put the connection here, it makes sense. Say has or contains. Okay. Say has. Okay. Something like this. So the player plays the level which has receptacles, and receptacles contain plants and other living things. So let's try. Ooh, fancy, zoomed in. Okay, we don't want that now. Long press to unlock. Dude, why did you lock this? What the fuck? That was frustrating. Anyway, let's create this to this. Let's call contains. Okay. It also contains soil. So we need another system from here to here. We'll reverse the arrow. This is also contains. Something like this. Now, when I said the player controls water flow, which affects water system, water dynamics, You need to be commenting things out here. There are some cases here. Okay. The case of a rain barrel. Rain will fill rain barrels. It will also with the soil. Probably, I think that should. Well, it's not really a compound word, is it? The level will also hold other objects such as rain barrels, which is affecting water dynamics kinda, but the player is also interacting with the rain barrels to I think I will call anything other than receptacles sort of amenities, utilities, other tools. Things, you know, different things. Most likely a rain barrel will do. I'll write a comment. I think on this website they write it, or I'm wrong. Maybe it was a different website. Anyhow, because I kind of remember, yeah, I designed this my own. That's just a barrel that I did. Okay, so you're here. Paste this. All these amenities. Replace this image with this. Confirm. Delete. We'll write a comment. Say. Any item that is helping players gardening journey, such as rain barrels. Sometimes you'll have rain barrel is to collect water so you can use it later, but sometimes there's too much rain, so you need a tarp or some kind of cover to keep the water away. Tarp. Sticks, like cucumbers will want to climb on things, right? So climbing sticks, trellises, that kind of thing. Okay. It. The level will also have some of, and amenities will sometimes. Let's do this part. Yeah, other things are rarely interacting with the plants. Say, if we want to spray plants to prevent diseases, that's in here. So this is gonna go into this and this. But sometimes when rain barrel will interact with the water dynamics, but the tarp to prevent the rain will protect the soil. So in essence, the type of the amenity will have an impact on some other system, but not necessarily just one. So we'll do from here to here. We'll say effects. Okay, we just do this way. Duplicate here. Should be here, and you should smarten up and come here. Maybe here, and then should be here. Good. Good. So receptacles contains soil thing. For example, one of the amenities is compost unit, which creates compost, and we consider both soil and composting part of growing medium. So that kind of thing. I think we might be close to the end here. I mean, I've designed more than necessary right now. We should just implement this, these 4, and that's going to take days, mind you, but at least to simulate the plant's reaction to current weather. I know that I'm going to exclude soil. We'll assume this is perfect, and same question goes for, well, is there enough rain? Are we considering we have enough rain, or like, are we only interested in the temperature factor here? Affecting the soil and plants, weather equals geography. We should fix this sentence. Weather equals geography when it's affecting soil and plants. We are interested in the temperature factor right now. Yes. Cold, wind, heat may directly affect plants. So right now, in the current prototype, I'm interested in the weather's temperature impact on plants, so that when we run the game, we are going to update this interface with the current weather data, and this temperature is going to define whether this plant is in seedling stage, is in flowering stage, that kind of thing. So sometime between May and August, the end of August, we should see this guy grow up and then eventually die. And any other months should just be, there should be a blank spot here. So after we see the temperatures effect, then we could say, well, temperature is okay, this guy would normally grow, but there isn't enough water. Then we'll introduce water dynamics, which is going to wet the soil, and if the soil is healthy and suitable for the plant, it's going to live. So in essence, the plants are interacting with the water through soil, and because we have to feed the soil with nutrition too. So that's the mechanic. We don't give the nutrition to the plant, we give it to the soil, because We're going to work out some other mechanics that either takes away or give more nutrition to the soil. So we shouldn't directly trigger the plants like as a code system. We should not interact with that system directly. Some of this will be maybe important here and there. These two are kind of an afterthought thing at this point. This is the diagram. Let's build a game in 1 year. Okay. So last time I checked, this was in a weird condition. This is in a somewhat less weird condition. These two are kind of talking to each other. We run the game first time, we see some fluctuation here. Then I guess there's one value that is repeated for every single second, which is not really pulling any random data, but this is sort of random. Either way, this plant is not really interacting with the system. This is the interface. So essentially the goal will be writing each system isolated enough and then working things out so that they do things like this way. Well, when the game starts, it automatically runs time system. As time progresses, whether the game is paused or there's like a fast speed button here, 1, 2, 3, right? Which is going to do something in the game systems too. These two are kind of related. But this time system, go here. This is not the interface itself necessarily, but some kind of time logic. The timer should work standalone, so that if we are updating the user interface to reflect the time mechanics, this system should have no relationship with other things ideally. Just work by itself. You should see the time going up here. That kind of thing. And then at some point, there is a weather system, which is registering itself so that maybe it wants to be notified when time progresses. When time ticks, current weather will be notified, and then this is going to request the data from. And there's a whole save and load mechanic here that data structure will be needed for that. Now, where do we go from here? Kind of know this works. Starts off with some x values there. So every second in our time is a. This is labeled as top panel. I don't really know why. Because and there was something about old time, old stuff here, old calendar, old top panel. This. And this says calendar. Oh. But oh, I understand why this is needed, because normally this is tablet and this is here. If this is put here, then of course the calendar will be here, so it's trying to position itself here. So the calendar will be this, see, yeah. When this is on, it's post. Let's try to do the minimum. Check a few conditions. Okay, so let's see if we can tidy up this part here. There are a whole bunch of X's and such. Okay. Not sure why this is set to 240/40. Okay. Let's look at the. I think I put it here, right? In one of these formula. Actually, 224. 224. The radial thing. This is probably going to have that notebook thing in one of these. I think tutorial page, not page, but tutorial file. Figma had the book icon here for Farmipedia, something like Wikipedia. Either way. This is gonna go through a bunch more iterations because this indicator here will have to shift around, and whether it will cover this area or not is kind of unknown. Maybe there will be some kind of a gradient here filled out. But one thing is for sure, we need to take care of it. I may have to restructure this. Let's see, how are we updating the cache? It's made down. I remember writing that data is game status, which actually has its own get. So what if we buttons container enter as oh. See. So if this is that, there's arm. What is arm there? And wait a minute. But that's actually a default button. What is this doing? Anything custom here? Oh boy. Well, they are not exactly default buttons, right? They have a curved there. Default font should not be, because it's gonna come from the theme anyway. So this is the real button here. Why do we need this one there? Because then this is gonna be put up here with the false margins, right? It's gonna push it in Y. There. It's not really our concern right now. Our concern right now is to find this middle section, which is money. Let's just empty all this, right? Here. So I'm going to make weather. Okay, that's already set to default. 5 run. So okay, let's run it again, and we should see it empty and then pop up. We still have that. So it turns out right away when the game starts, it pulls the cache, which kind of is here most likely. Cache label, right? When it's ready, it's pulling it. But the other stuff is updated only when time is past ticked, which is a second later. And when time passes ticked, can you yes, on, what is it, on time passed, which is updating the UI, is updating all this. So what should happen is that on, by the way, if update UI is responsible for, why don't we put this in update UI either? Because we're updating the whole UI. Let's do this. And also, we should run it once at the beginning anyway, before we wait for this. Now when we run, we should have some values, and then after 1 second we are in. Good. The date value though is coming from data. There's a date part which gives let's just go get it. No, not that. Data, get, date, return, data, date, and data date is a dictionary. It finds the relevant part. So there's the hour and minute, which is put here. Wait a minute, why can't this be if year and day? $11.50. I don't get it. Can't we just deduce that from here? Yeah. And then do we have to do 0 padding there for the 12? Yeah. So I get that. You could actually do something different than this, which is when you get this value, you string, what was it? Let me see. I was looking at it the other day. Look at the string class. This one, pad zeros. Anyway, or another alternative is when minute is here, you put the string here, pad it, except sometimes maybe we want to know the decimal value. So it makes sense. Let's not make a lot of calls here. Let's be a little bit more concerned about. This is a quick performance gain here, really. Can afford this. So you're formatting the date in this fashion. Actually, since you have the date here, we can do normalization here. The date's hour. Date will have hour. Get here. Okay. Will be date hour at zeros. This is most likely not going to work because it's actually coming as integer. But thinking that it's going to act like a variant, hoping it will work. And now we do the same thing with the date minute. We do date minute at zeros. So I'm basically overwriting it with the padded values. You know, in this case, we don't need that because I'm gonna go with the 24-hour system. So there won't be 1 a.m. If it's 1, it's actually 1 a.m., 1 in the morning. If it says 13, it's actually 1 in the afternoon. So this is not going to be padded. Minute will be padded. It's going to be like 105, 1305, that kind of thing. So this is done. So we could actually do this to be honest. This is also going to be the date. This to be year, day, hours. So let's go with this, see if it actually creates. Yeah, so because it's we'll convert this to string first and do the pad zeros. But I'm not sending in operands string and int in operator. So I want to add 1 to the minute value of 50 here, which is okay. Here's the problem. This is all integer. This is string. But when I do this, I want to make that change in the copy, not the original data. This is bizarre. I'm reading the value from a singleton. And I would like to think that I'm working with a local copy of that value, which has become date. Now when I'm making a property of the dictionary, date, suddenly the original data structure turned into a string. What is this? On timer timeout, time, which triggered this. Soil type string, you know. Why is this even here? Members. Utils. They're looking at utils like, yeah, add date. The fuck? What the actual fuck? String enum, string enum, enum string enum stuff. The fact that this is already some bizarre stuff. It's here anyway. Maybe it made sense at that point. I don't really understand why. But anyway, this is still a bit of awkward behavior here. New date is constructed as the minute is coming from speed mode, and speed being dictionary, which has been defined here. So this is actually passed okay at this point. Okay, so timer timeout, this is triggered, and then time pass is triggered. So what is this doing? Date time pass. Diff date, edit date, which is the incoming value. Date to days. So eventually, when this is triggered, the date and div date, which one has a problem? The first one. First one, which is the D date. Funny thing is this, so that this is making me comfortable here, because the fact that this is producing this is considering this as a string is a problem, because it's as if this is giving the reference but not the value. This date is essentially dictionary, so let's imply that. Okay. Date is a dictionary, so don't just do that, right? Maybe we do a constructor here, dictionary. Can we actually do a dictionary like a start? Let's say like a constructor dictionary. Like you say, okay, here are your values. Creates an empty dictionary. What if I don't want to? What if I want to create? The thing is, all I'm looking for is really duplicate. Creates a copy of the dictionary return. In this case, I don't need it to be deep. I'll just copy this. I was hoping that I would get dot completion as a. I would mark this as a dictionary. It could actually have something like this. Okay, this should work. Yeah. Now I'm creating the copy instead of reading the reference and updating it. That's it. So let's speed things up a bit. Go overnight. You're also seeing the shadows and such. Darker. Yeah, there is some fluctuation here, but those are all the. This time here is this should be 0, 0, so that should be petted as well. Use same treatment here, str one, and I'll set the time to 23:50 because we know the other one works. Perfect. So I think I'm. Now, did it make much difference between writing this way or this way? Maybe, maybe not. But there's a certain level of simplicity here, and making sense of what this decimal to string formatting. Okay. This is okay too. Quick water break. now I need to figure something out. Cache updated. But yeah, there's also this other system here. This is doing this. I see. Swap raining press. So there used to be a swap raining button here. It's actually, yeah, part of this interface, which is invisible. Okay. Kind of like a debug thing. One thing we can do is put this sort of stuff in debug. If debug is true, or sort of like an admin thing, right? So we could do things like this, put it there, and the game is running in production mode or debug true or false, we can disable that. We can certainly do that. This calendar should not really be here at all. Yeah. This probably has some, let's see, music pressed. Yeah, there was a reason why this was here, right? On calendar pressed calendar. Yeah, this should not be done automatically like this. Some other game system should be not sort of like you request a calendar. Let's remove that because we'll try it again. Again, it should not be here. I think this sort of thing was in game, or there's actually a time function. Yeah, because this is the UI itself. There's already a time script which is responsible for this on game resume, which is checking. So those events should be fired when the pause button is pressed. We say pause the game. When resume is pressed, we should say game resumed, so that other events can also trigger game resume. Okay, let me see this interfacing. I think these are, yeah. So what is S here? Pause music. Okay, this is music control. This is game settings. This is the game. This game speed. So this is pause game, which is 0. Pause. So On pause pressed. Go to method. Yeah, this is it. And the other ones should be on speed mode pressed, and this should come with their advanced fast, furious. The one normal, fast, and the other one is going to be super fast. And each one of them is going to do this time speed change value. Which is responsible for running the game. So then my question is, on game resumed, who's calling this? Nobody. Okay. Garbage code. So when we click this, we should pause the game. We paused. Click this. Game should actually resume and go with the fast speed. Except it's really not doing that when we press this. So essentially this normal speed 1, if we press this, that is working, but when we pause the game, clicking again doesn't work. That might be because of two things. One is although this is firing, nobody is listening. Second is this is not firing because those buttons might have their pause state inherit, which is inheriting from here, which is most likely at some point this is gonna have it paused. By default, one of these will be paused. So this guy is probably well, if this one is inheriting too and the other one's inheriting, but what if this is inheriting from something that's passing it? No. Which means nobody's listening to it. I don't know which one is worse. So time speed change. So we have to look for this in our files. So number 77, 78 is this file. Single. Whoa. Okay, we actually do have something. And this should fire game resumed. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. When you change the speed, you should also resume the game because practically unpausing it, right? So then this boy is now reacting to it on. Yeah, so when game is resumed, there was that stupid is game resumed on game resume. This is essentially should catch itself on game resume. This should be here. Is this even happening? Let's see. So when I pause the game and I click the speed button, nothing happens. Now I'm going to do a different kind of test. I will do this, click again, which was not implemented, but This time script itself is also part of time. This is problematic too, because once it stops, then it halts there. Stop. Stop. Second. Not firing at all. On game event pass. Stopped. So how do we stop there? This is triggered. So naturally, this should have been triggered. Here, we come here and we'll now pause it. Is this time? Let it go. Now when we trigger this, it doesn't fire pressing that 1, which is normal speed. This. We have fired this. Okay. Now when we do this, it's gonna say, yeah, fire it. Okay. Which then resumes the game again. So that fires. You pause the game, this fires. Perfect. But when the game is paused, when you click this, you no longer fire, because this top panel is not processing the time functions, which is good. Kind of counterintuitive, but stop the game. Go. Everything is stopped, but now it's still processing events we want. So when you click this, it's going to change the speed and it's going to resume the game. Hit it again. And now it's trying to resume the game. Go. Okay, this is what we want. That should not have been put on inherit. Because everything that is inheriting is usually inheriting from stop. You have to set something to process so that all the child objects, children nodes, will inherit from the process instead of stop. So let's remove these false breakpoints. So now we can do something like this pause. And when you start the game, you start at a high speed, so it actually goes really fast. Pause, but then you start at a normal speed. So that's actually okay. Now the decision I have to make is, according to the data structure I have, it's kind of like a simulator that I'm here separately. These values will be populated here. But when I say hour here, 18, 19, it's like, well, that should correspond to the hour value here. So although we're incrementing seconds, when we cross over the next hour from 1:59 to 2 o'clock, then we should do a lookup, and we should pull the current weather conditions every hour. The simulator works kind of on second. It considers every second another hour from the weather data, but this should only be pulled when we actually hit the air, the real hour value, not second, which is, was this. So we need a mechanism that checks, and not necessarily it should check it in this interface, but a system that keeps track of certain events, like you hit the hour mark, that kind of. Let's look at our event bus. So this has a lot of events. Most of it may be chopped. Okay. So I'm going to put these two essential. See. So these are special conditions when, but it's actually similar to the logic that I'm trying to write. So when certain hour and minute value is reached on a particular day in a particular geography, say in Toronto, we know when the sunrise and sunset values are. So this should only be triggered when those conditions are met. Similarly, we will have from 1:59 crossing over to 2 o'clock, we will have certain signal that will say, it's the hour mark has been reached. So I'm going to create some comments here. This is obvious, so I'm not. Time milestones. Okay, this is really what I'm. This actually may look virtual effect kind of thing, but essentially this is about the time of the day. Time milestones. It's either hour reached or crossed. Call it reached. Most likely we will have at midnight 2 of these will fire. It's the new hour, it's the new day, that kind of. Similarly, if I'm going to update vendor data every week, there's going to be some monthly events. Finally, the end of the year. Most likely this. This should not be here. Time milestones. These are gradual events. Well, not really. Every second in real life, when the second, whatever the game speed is, if the values here are increasing, every time you see this number updated, it's because this has happened. So it's essentially still a time, like it's part of time milestones. This has a bit more implication though. This player role thing. This is when the player hits the calendar and wants to fast forward the time. Okay, let's keep all this as milestones here. Driving time. So when time is updated, yeah, so many of these things are in the wrong places. Like the pause button doesn't even work anymore because it's probably removed it, right? Pause, spacebar. This should normally work, but even that is not working because let me run it again. Running space. Yeah, the let's see the breakpoint space. Pause. Is there a typo here? Pause. Okay. Space. Right, it's space. Let's just add another key. Space. Done. So this is game GD. Is this even working though? Meaning, in weather effects, yeah, I don't have that system attached to. So it's, of course, it makes sense it's not working. Should be careful about that because if I'm expecting some of these things to work, I'll be fooled. This game, yeah, there used to be a scene like this. Yeah, this is where the game works. You run this. Okay, now we stopped. Let's remove the breakpoint so we can see it. There it is. So this is running. I'll do space, the game post, another space, it's running. Because things are done in a systematic way, this component is also working in a different. This is obviously wrong. We shall see. We shall see. Big break. Be back. Let's write those time functions, which kind of will go along with this system. So when the game starts, it runs the time function. I think I'm cleaning things up as I go. I predict I'm gonna have to butcher a bunch more things. By the way, when I say game, I actually meant this, but in this context that is not working because I'm here only to simulate the weather effects, which has its own script file. Yeah, okay, let me the following question. Perhaps more important, what if I wanted to test any one of these systems? I would have to write some kind of a test harness test scene like this, which would not employ game script anyway. Vendors is a close case where you could just run vendors and it will actually request data from game. This is okay, but what if we want to test something like rain barrels, amenities? Now I could place a rain barrel in the scene and we'll run the game, we'll run the time, which will trigger the rain depending on the time of the day, time of the year, that kind of thing, depending on geography, right? But this will affect the water dynamics, will trigger the correct visual effects and sound effects, whatever. Eventually, there should be enough water or rain filling the rain barrel. So if I'm writing a test scene like that, similar to this, I'm going to face the same problem. Am I always going to need a game GD somewhere? Let's look at game GD, because I think this file has been abused, because this should not have any of this. I mean, from a certain point of view, the game is gonna let you play in a city, but that should be a separate system that you don't hardcode here. I mean, this was kind of done in a test case, but this could still have been done a bit more delicately. Let's look at game. Now that we have, yeah, so this is the idea. We should not really have this here. So let's butcher that. Location, is there anything here about location? No, we are not even using it. Bye. Space. This is about having that ground. By ground, I mean if the camera, when it shoots that ray, if it's hitting something in the ground, the query is not empty, then you say ray collision queried, here's the position, and where is this going? Who's using this? Control Shift F? Find event bus. So this is fired but never used. So uh, let's call it redundant. Let's call you debugging signals. Oh, okay. This is used to control the world, well, to travel the world. This should not be here. It's about game systems, not camera systems. This actually is in camera, something like this. Yeah, let's look at camera. Input or this? Yeah, left, right, and all that stuff. Which is triggering move camera anyway. It's direction. It's happening because, yeah, unhandled input. This should not be here. Entity context menu. Oh, I think. So we would move the camera, interpolate the camera, and then enable the text menu. This is the structure parent, structure position, and I think this has to be divided into two. There should be the camera moving part. The camera script should be responsible for moving the camera. The context menu opening is a whole other UI system that should be responsible for. Where to open that context menu? Okay, so many things have to change here. Which means somewhere here we need a camera system too. I will keep it there as a reminder that some events will have to use camera. Okay, internet, go. By camera. Something like this. Better in our theme system here. Let's duplicate you. Paste. Bye. Okay. Like a separate thing waiting there. I'm still trying to run this properly. The question became, want to write other test cases. How much of game script we need? Let's comment this out too. Origin normal. And again, this is only responsible for defining the query. All this is gone. Get viewport, get camera. Time false is false. Shouldn't time be running at the beginning anyway? Nothing is stopping it. And then when we wait for time passed, should start animation, should fade out. Just doing something like this fade out thing. And now what do we do with this? Okay, so that's garbage. And this is done. Let me see. Time pose false. If this is false, time is already running. So what difference does it make? The way I recall this was done was so that when the fade out is finished, the time would not look like it has already passed a few seconds. So when camera is actually used here. Switch camera mode. We are no longer bothering with the camera switches. All the same to us. So let's look at time, 51:52, right? Which is, I think, what I said here. 1 second has passed. And again. No, okay. Yeah, it looks like it starts at 51. Problem though. This should actually be true for this to make any sense. So then it will start at 50. But of course, the animation system is also depending on time, which has the, by that I mean this madness, pose mode. Now I gotta find whether, where is this going? Basically, when this emits the signal, animation started, which system is listening to this? Oh boy. Fade out. Main screen. This is a whole other black screen. So there's something in the HUD that is messy. And I bet this script's HUD black screen is part of HUD screen somewhere here. So when animation started, animation name fade out. If not animation, otherwise play. Problem is, either this must have process, but I think this also, okay, this is good too. This is, so this should run. Let me think. This happened when I, okay, how is this written? Okay. Time pose true. Timer posed true. Timer is posed. Timer is this timer. It's posed. It's not going to fire on timer timeout. It's not going to trigger time passed. Problem is okay, see, this is redundant. If you don't want to pause it, why do you have to do false here in the first place? The game is already not paused anyway. It's running. So if you comment this out, the only reason why this is put here so that it's maybe going to do this, which is also redundant. We are waiting for time to pass to trigger this, which could be triggered anyway. So when you come to this, I hit the wrong 6. Again, I'm in the wrong file. I should be game to hit it. That's it. Now, problem though, this is actually happening here, so that we would have to wait for 1. This, nothing to do with this. This is going to give us the fusion. We'll wait 1 second for time pass to trigger. Here's a problem though. I don't like this style because if there's a whole animation layer, right, which should not be part of the game script, that animation layer could very well sign for time passed, just like other game systems sign up for time's passage. Then the animation layer will say, well, okay, I'll just play this one out. That's it. Technically, this, from my point of view, something like this should be so high level that you should write the minimum amount of code. I mean, even this is questionable, but that is going away quickly. And none of this is going to solve at this level. Problem that second is still passed, because you get to see this 51 starting at 51, because it takes between 50 and 51 to do that fade out, because this is 50. If I put this 45, we will get to see that after the animation is finished, after the blackout is finished, the time value here will show 23:46. Here we go. That's it. So none of that is the solution. Again, this should be done so that the animation system, the game should start as paused. The animation system should wait for 1 second, do its thing, and then unpause the game. None of that should happen at the... Anyway, now that I'm understanding there's nothing crucial here, except if you pause things and such, isn't really that crucial. Which means if we come here under weather effects, we can safely work in this system. Which is a risk, but at least to test this guy and this guy, I don't need to implement this guy. That's fine. So let's go our default case, which is running the game. The time is running. I now have to test for that milestone case. So I need a system where I'm signaling these. That should probably happen in time, because time is responsible for time, ironically. Um, I have a feeling I'm gonna end up cleaning this file too. There's special transition, which is linear transition. This. Let's see. None of that is today's topic, perhaps. Let's see. Let me look in time. Where do we find the time? HUD? Time? Scene? No, this is the old top panel. We close this madness. Close this too. Okay, this is my newer version. Doesn't directly have the time thing. But there is a system that is triggering time passed, which is a time scene with its own timer component. This one. This says timer timeout, which knows the speed of the game, so it knows how many minutes it should fast forward, kinda. This is the new date, and then we update time passed. This is not a name that I remember creating, but which comes here. Makes me think all this could have been done here. Update time passed. Is this called from somewhere else? I see. Special transition. Nice. And I bet there is another one in here. Still special transition. Then another one here. And I bet maybe one or two more in linear transition. And then the function itself. And here's another call. So, in other words, if I think that these two are not needed, which will not call this, then this doesn't need to be here. It could just be merged in here. What is this doing special that it needs to be separated? So we passed the new date. You know, I remember writing these two lines. Okay. So then other systems are doing something with the new value. So normally 1 second is just 1 minute here, because normal is 1. So then when same dictionary is passed here, diff date, which is edit date, then there's d date, which is actually current date but coming from data. So then this is like maybe 1 minute later than current date. Between these two, the only difference is diff date has, well, no, not true. Diff date has all the values 0 except minute is 1. This has all the current integer values filled here. There's future date. Then we do we add those two dates. We consolidate the date, which puts it in a correct format. I remember that. Future date. Then we set the date to the future, but that's what this is. So something else has to react to this and do it. This date to days, diff date, which is the edit date, date to days. We set the delta to that. Delta, and why is delta important? Is delta part of this position system? Where is delta here? You just command F here. Huh? That's something else. Get process delta time. So we are not really using this after all. We just do get process delta. Is there any if we are setting data set delta, is there any other script that's using data get delta? One way to find out. Nope. So in other words, gone, gone, gone. Also gone. Okay. Let's do match whole words on 4, all commented out. Now, are we really setting the date here? Question. Because that was about diff date. If I go and check time passed, in other words, I'm looking for this in the files, right? I want to find all the systems that are going to have a lot of results. But I'm mostly interested in anything like time or game or higher level systems, not the interface. This is what I'm talking about. Data, time passed. Because when we pass the new date, to time passed. Data layer should just figure out the next value for the minutes, because we say, well, increase it by 1 minute or 5 minutes or 50. So, and I bet if I go into data, this on time passed, right? There is going to be a time passed here. And yeah, so there is actually some stuff here. 1 month has passed, so we are checking. So during this, we should do these special calls. Signals, event pass, hour reached, day reached, week reached, or month reached, or passed. I'm also surprised that when time is passed, see there's some manufacturer vendor logic here. Has order arrived? This almost belongs to a different system about inventory or orders, shipments, that kind of. Okay, I'm going to write a few more system names here and call it a night. Dinner. I think that will be all for today. Tomorrow is writing day. Tuesdays are usually meeting days. Wednesday night, stream again. And depending on the feedback I'm getting from the publisher, if I need to edit the chapters, I might have to write more, which will delay the streams. If not, after Wednesday, I might actually stream more. We'll see, because I'm excited to get back to this refactoring. So we need an inventory system. This actually involves orders, incoming stuff, right? That is the reason why I will call it orders, because when the timer will check if the orders have arrived. If they have, then they will make their way into the inventory, and the inventory will be accessible to the player. Let's look up quick icons for it. We can visually be done and for dinner. This is going to be the orders picture. It's here. Pick a different one for the inventory, something like boxes. Hey, look, this is my inventory. So we do orders from this firm, and this one is going to be picked from this picture. Confirm. Delete this. Delete this. I will bind these later, I think. Which makes sense because we haven't really attached those two. Shop is like orders. I'm not really typing the shopping cart into that system because that's just a collection of items. This is like outstanding orders, like not finalized. This is finalized orders. So that's covered. And this is vendors. And this is inventory. So we are done. That's it. Let's pull you here. So this time is going to interact with orders. Player also will place an order through vendors, and then eventually inventory. It's going to be kind of in between here. And we'll do that some other time. That's it for today. I hope it's been useful and fun, maybe productive, some Godot stuff. Eventually we'll move forward to more visual stuff once I'm doing a bit of cleanup and do better test cases like this, that we could see the effect of rain and like snow and that sort of thing. So that will be in the next days and weeks and perhaps sometime here. That's it. Have a good week. See you later.